Colorado, prepare for a statewide vote on abortion rights, maybe more than one. The state capitol, the site of protests today as America prepares for Roe v. Wade to be overturned. We'll ask a Republican candidate for governor to square his pro-life without exception stance with the fact that he assaulted his pregnant wife.
I don't understand how you connect those things.
Greg Lopez joins us to talk about abortion and why he says only he can help Republicans win with Coloradans of color. Wildfires are intruding into all aspects of life, down to our exercise.
It's part of our daily conversation now, which is just a scary thing.
And answering your questions about the mystery structures on Berthoud Pass. All that is next. Colorado is set to become an island of access to abortion if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade as expected, surrounded by states that are expected to restrict abortion like Nebraska and Kansas, states that would ban it outright, Texas, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Arizona, Utah, the Dakotas, and in the case of New Mexico, not protect access to abortion. Our Marshall Zellinger explains how Coloradans may be asked to vote on abortion rights again.
For decades, groups like Cobalt, which supports a woman's right to choose, have been on defense against ballot issues seeking to restrict abortion access in Colorado. Colorado voters have rejected ballot issues to restrict abortion access 6 times since 1998, the most recent saying no to Proposition 115 in 2020.
In 2020, more people defeated that ballot measure, no on 115, and voted with us than they voted for either Joe Biden or John Hickenlooper. So we outperform candidates by party.
Now, Cobalt President Karen Middleton is ready to switch to offense.
We've been defeating bad ballot measures almost every election cycle. And so the idea of taking the time to plan a proactive ballot measure didn't seem possible.
Cobalt is working on a ballot issue for 2024, when more voters are paying attention because it's a presidential election year.
Women in Colorado will be able to choose.
That ballot issue would take what the governor signed this year, protecting a woman's right to choose an abortion, and move it from state statute to the state constitution. Why? State statutes can be changed by a conservative legislature and conservative governor. It takes voters to change the state constitution. A February poll by Democratic polling firm Global Strategy Group, along with super liberal group Progress Now Colorado, found 2-to-1 support of a state constitutional amendment protecting a woman's right to choose.
I don't think you should be surprised by this, but not because I'm a Democratic pollster, but because this is pretty consistent with what we've been seeing in Colorado for years.
The poll by Andrew Bowman is also broken down by political affiliation, showing unaffiliateds supportive of women's reproductive rights, and even support from not very conservative Republicans.
Every office up and down the ballot, from governor to Senate to Congress, rushing to criticize the law that Democrats passed here to guarantee a woman's right to choose. And they're really putting themselves out of touch, not only with unaffiliateds here, but with half of their own party.
Despite voters rejecting abortion restrictions 6 times, there could be another effort in November. Signatures are being collected to get an issue on the 2022 ballot that would ban murder of a child prior to, during, or after birth.
We'll know later this summer if that ballot issue qualifies. There have been only 2 ballot issues regarding abortion that have ever passed in Colorado. 1984 prohibited public funding of abortions. That passed by about 10,000 people, and a repeal of that failed in 1988. Another repeal attempt could be coming by Cobalt for that issue in 2024. And in 1998, Kyle, the Parental Notification Act passed, which just requires that parents of minors be notified at least 48 hours before the abortion, but it doesn't allow the parent to prevent the abortion from happening.
You get the sense that even though Coloradans at the ballot time and time again have reaffirmed support for abortion rights, that supporters aren't going to take anything for granted if there's ways that they can put extra protections in the law if the federal scaffolding falls away.
Right. As long as Colorado stays blue, what happened this year with the governor is probably good enough. But my question to Cobalt, which kind of is answered by this poll that we showed in the story, is just because voters have overwhelmingly said no to the restriction questions, does that mean it's automatically going to flip and they'll say yes to your questions? We've never really had that, and we'll find out in 2024.
Haven't seen it posed in that way. All right, Marshall, thank you. Abortion rights supporters who rallied at the state capitol today essentially said, if you are surprised, you have not been paying attention. They vowed to protect access to abortion at the state level, both for Coloradans and for people coming here from other states. Another gathering outside the state capitol within the hour saw a larger crowd with demonstrators for and against abortion access. Third rally is planned for 6:30 tonight. Cannot recall the last time we saw 3 rallies at the state capitol on one issue in one day. Out-of-state visitors accounted for 13.5% of abortions performed in Colorado last year. The state health department recorded 1,560 abortions performed for non-residents last year. That was a 6-year high. That's the blue segment of the chart. Most came from Wyoming and Texas. Last year, Texas banned a strict anti-abortion law. Abortions in Colorado were at a 12-year high in 2021. The state health department says the 11,580 abortions recorded were likely a significant undercount from the actual number. Both Republican candidates for governor tell Next that they want to undo the recent measure adding abortion rights to state law. Heidi Ganahl's campaign declined to say if she would also sign an abortion ban, like the 2 introduced by Republicans at the state legislature this year. Ganahl has not agreed to an extended interview to take questions here. I did sit down with her primary opponent for a longer conversation today. Greg Lopez says he would seek to undo the abortion rights recently put into state law and sign an abortion ban if possible.
It says that there is no life in the womb of a female, and I think that's wrong. I think we need to acknowledge, I have 2 children, you have 2 children. I think we need to acknowledge that life does exist in the womb. And when I read that language, it gives me really pause for concern as to, did we lose our moral compass here in Colorado? And I think that's really the question that people are asking themselves.
You are pro-life without exceptions for rape and incest and life or health of the mother. Additionally, in 1993, you were arrested for violently assaulting your then pregnant wife. Some people might see those 2 things at odds, but they both involve you exerting control over a woman's body. Is that what Coloradans want from their governor?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a violent situation. If you if you go back and
you
look,
were arrested for assault.
We were both arrested for assault, both of us.
And
Okay.
one of you was pregnant. So again, the question
So
is, do Coloradans want somebody who has a history both in word and in physical
Let me tell you this,
action
Kyle.
of controlling the bodies of women?
Here's the thing. There's only been one perfect man that's ever walked this earth, and we nailed him to the cross. I'm not a perfect man. I've made my mistakes, but I've learned from them. And I think most people learn from their mistakes. And I think really that's what people want to hear.
You don't see it as an issue of control over women's bodies?
No, I do not.
They
I don't
use-
understand how you connect those things.
Okay. Republicans nationwide have been able to make some inroads with Latinos, most recently in Virginia. I know that that's been a focus of your campaigns. Is that something that you think that you alone can accomplish, or could any Republican candidate for governor make inroads in minority communities?
Well, I can tell you this. I'm one of them. I understand their culture. I understand how they think. They're conservatives. They truly believe in family. They believe in hard work. They believe in making sure their children have a good education. And they don't like government to interfere in their lives.
Is that something that you think that you alone in this governor's race can deliver, or could both you or Heidi make similar inroads, you think?
I think I'm the only one that can actually make inroads into those communities.
And why is that?
Because I'm one of them.
My full 15-minute conversation with Greg Lopez about his campaign for governor is on the Next YouTube channel. There he explains how reducing sales tax revenue could combat inflationary pressures. And he says that the resulting drop in education funding in Colorado would just force teachers to be more creative. The plan to rush Coloradans their legally required tax refunds ahead of Election Day got the support of every Senate Democrat and 4 Republicans today. Democratic Governor Jared Polis has been pushing for this. He says the government should not hold on to the money until next year. We asked if he would like to make this schedule change permanent to always accelerate the tax refunds, or just this one year when he's up for re-election. His spokesman did not directly answer our question, just said the moment calls for it. We're getting some feedback tonight about another effort by Democrats to repackage legally required tax relief as a gift to voters before Election Day. The governor announced a bill yesterday to reduce the property tax assessment rate. It means that people would owe less than they expect in property taxes next year. A Next viewer named Doug pointed out the significant impact of public education funding. It would be a $224 million drop. Doug, we got some more information for you and learned that the state is going to use other funds to backfill all but $41 million of the education funding. As we mentioned yesterday, some of the money that would be remaining with taxpayers would have been refunded to them anyway. And we should note on the school issue, because property taxes are expected to rise anyway, even with the change, school districts won't see funding cuts. They'll just see less of an increase. Strange signs always catch our attention and yours. Cyclists have been greeted by this sign near Mile High, threatening pedicab drivers with arrest. This is on the South Platte River Trail on Monday. Here's the deal. The stadium is allowed to put up those anti-cycling signs when there are events at Mile High, but they're supposed to remove them right afterward. Water from Colorado could be drained to keep Lake Powell from hitting rock bottom. Trail runners consider a new hazard: fire.
One of our members posted the question, what do you do?
And a next viewer wonders about the strange ramp-like things on Berthoud Pass. Hey, there are no weird questions, but sometimes there are weird answers on Next.
A nice day. We started off with patchy low clouds and fog, then went partly sunny with temperatures in the 50s and 60s. But tonight, a new storm and another round of rain and snow. Temperatures this afternoon were seasonal. We'll be about 10 degrees colder tomorrow. Tightly wound system crossing Colorado. Rain and snow already falling across the Continental Divide. Only a 20% chance that we'll see that rain in Denver tonight, with a 60% chance of those showers making it into the urban corridor by tomorrow afternoon. Cloudy and cooler tomorrow with scattered showers off and on and a couple of thunderstorms on the plains. So after tomorrow, upper 60s Thursday, close to 80 Friday, beautiful Saturday, and then warmer and drier for Mother's Day. Sunshine 74 with only isolated showers in the Sunday forecast.
Lake Powell is approaching bone dry, and it may end up borrowing some water from Colorado again. The Bureau of Reclamation says it needs another crisis plan to prevent Lake Powell from drying out this summer. The reservoir's at its lowest level since it was built in the 60s, and it's only 32 feet away from shutting down the hydro plant there. So water from Flaming Gorge in northern Utah is going to get sent down to Powell. They did that last year when Blue Mesa Reservoir in Gunnison County was also partially drained to save Powell. The amount that was taken left Blue Mesa nearly depleted. Blue Mesa was built along with Flaming Gorge and the Navajo Reservoir to regulate the flow of the Colorado rivers. The Bureau of Reclamation says it's just part of Blue Mesa's job to help fill Lake Powell. The feds haven't announced whether Blue Mesa is going to be drained this year. That would have a big impact on fishing and boating in that part of Colorado. Snowpack in the Gunnison River Basin was well below average this year, and Blue Mesa is currently only 30% full. Tonight's next question comes to us from David in Fort Collins. He noticed some odd ramp-like structures along the hairpin turns of Berthoud Pass. So David sent us a GIF of what he was looking at. You see it there along the road, kind of like that little dugout thing. Almost looks like you drive down into a tunnel there. CDOT tells us those are catch basins, and they're there to protect water quality. When sediment comes down the mountain, it's supposed to wind up in those basins instead of going into streams and lakes. It keeps the traction sand that goes onto the roads during bad weather from going into the water system as well. So the idea is to protect the fish habitat, protect wetlands. The basins will also temporarily store snowmelt and stormwater runoff. The sediment can settle to the bottom of the catch basins. The water kind of trickles out, and it's cleaner than if it had all that stuff in there. CDOT will come through and clear out the sediment from time to time. CDOT says when the pass was updated in the late 90s, early 2000s, the Hoop Creek watershed, tributary of Clear Creek, was having a real issue with traction sand. So to deal with that, they put 12 of those catch basins along US 40 on Berthoud Pass. There are also some installed along I-70 from the tunnels down to Floyd Hill. Sorry, no alien base under the mountain. Send us your questions, big or small. Record them on video or audio if you would, or send us a GIF like David did and email it to next@9news.com. We'll sift through the sediment and get you an answer. You're out running a trail and all of a sudden you see smoke and flames. What next? Helps to think it through ahead of time.
A frightening conversation to be having, but it's a necessary one.
It's changing the way they run in Boulder County. That's next. The rebuilding of Superior has officially started. The first rebuilding permit was issued today. 378 buildings in Superior burned in the Marshall Fire on September 30th. Hundreds of folks living there have been waiting on official permission to start their rebuild. The first permit went to this couple, Terry and Ed. They live in the original town Superior area. Down the road in Louisville, where 550 homes were lost, no permits have yet been issued. Same for unincorporated Boulder County, where 158 families lost their home. The Boulder County says those are close. Wildfires have begun to encroach on nearly all aspects of life along the Front Range, down to our exercise. A group of trail runners was forced to talk about what to do if fire breaks out while they're out on a trail or near one.
It's a beautiful day given our current conditions for dryness here in Boulder. So I am Jenny Prim. I am one of the co-leaders of Trail Sisters Boulder. Trail Sisters is an organization for women. It's a community that inspires, educates, and empowers women to get out and enjoy the outdoors through running and hiking on trails. And recently, with the dry conditions, some of the conversation in our community has been around wildfire preparedness. A frightening conversation to be having, but it's a necessary one. It was something that personally I hadn't thought much of prior to December 30th of last year when the Marshall fires ravaged our community. Months later, we had the NCAR fire. I personally was out running Dowdy Draw and came around a corner. There was the smoke and then there were the flames. It's part of our daily conversation now, which is just a scary thing. And I'm grateful for this overcast day to be having this conversation with you. We like to talk about awareness and being prepared, where they feel confident in going out and knowing what to do should something pop up.
You have had the last word around here for 5 years and counting. Your feedback next. Stacks of feedback tonight on abortion and writing in that wealthy women will always be able to find an abortion provider. It's the poor women on the losing end. Steve wrote in with feedback on the impact to the Front Range, saying get ready for an influx of refugees from those states with trigger laws. Many of the states surrounding Colorado expected to ban or severely restrict abortion access. Varied feedback on our conversation with Greg Lopez tonight. Mick says, see, that's the actual serious reporting and accountability that we need. Whereas Luke says, you're all hypocrites. Kyle's an idiot. See you next time.